Good day everyone, I am Nino Jasmar Mecha, one of the editorial staff of the Palawan Scientists. Today I'm going to share my experience in preparing a manuscript for publication. So this will be the outline of my talk. First is I'm going to share my first publication in 2020 from my undergraduate thesis that was repackaged for publication. Next is the steps in writing the manuscript and publication process. So let's start with my first publication from my undergraduate thesis. This is my first scientific research paper that was published in 2020. This was my undergraduate thesis, as I mentioned earlier, in 2019, that I repackaged into publishable form after my bachelor degree. After the repackage, I submitted the paper to the Philippine Journal of Fisheries on May 27, 2019, and it was published in January 2020. It took me about 4 months to repackage my thesis into publishable paper and another 7 months from submission to publication. This process of writing a thesis into publishable form involves several steps in order to produce a clear, concise, and captivating paper. In this seminar, I will share a few steps to assist the researcher, particularly those who are new in publication journey, to write a successful manuscript for a chosen journal. The first step is to create a paper outline. It is important to have a manuscript outline while the research is still in progress or when repackaging a manuscript for publication. It is important to identify the subtopics in the introduction to help prioritize which paper to read or review. Limit the objectives. Not all objectives being included in the thesis could be included in the paper. You may split the thesis into 2 papers if possible. Be sure to state clear objectives. Ensure that the process of data gathering for each objective is clearly explained in the methods section. And finally, there is a results and discussion for each objective. So this is an outline for one of my ongoing studies as part of my master's thesis. The second step is to choose the journal. It is a good idea to choose your target journal before you start writing your manuscript or repackaging your thesis into publishable form to save time and efforts. In choosing a journal, the author should consider the following guidelines, such as identifying which field your finding will have the greatest impact. Identify your target reader, match your desired audience with readership of the journal, and consider the aim and scope of journal, not the impact factor. Once you consider these guidelines, then you can tailor your writing to the journal's requirements and readership and increase your chance of acceptance. Once you have chosen your target journal, take time to read a selection or articles already published, particularly those that are relevant to your own research. This can help you get an understanding of what the editors may be looking to guide your writing efforts. Step 3 is to structure the paper. There are following guidelines in structuring the paper for publication. First is to study your target journal. The best way to determine how to structure your article is to study your target journal. The right manuscript structure can boost your chances of successful publication. Next is to look through the journal's instructions for authors. And last is you could also make use of any article template so that you can assure that your manuscript conforms to the journal's formatting and guidelines. However, in structuring a paper, there are rules where author must be considered to increase the chance of the paper for acceptance. It is important that the author must carefully read and follow the guidelines to expedite the publication of the paper. By strictly following the journal's guide for authors, reflect the author's professional attitude and attention to details. Unable to follow simple instruction could be a ground for rejection in some journals. It is very disrespectful for authors not to follow the guide for authors of the chosen journal. However, please note that some journals does not require authors to follow the journal's format. Here is a page of the journal showing the buttons for the guide for authors and templates for different types of papers. Remember, each journal has specific format, so please do not ignore this. Here we have a sample of guide for authors, of the Philippine Journal of Fisheries. There is also a checklist for authors to ensure that writing style is strictly followed. Following the suggested format can help expedite the publication process. Again, some journals are so strict that ignoring their format can be ground for rejection. Number 4. Write your paper as you are telling a story to a defined audience. It is important to know your audience and write in accordance to your audience capacity to understand scientific papers. Avoid using jargons or less common vocabularies, especially when publishing in multidisciplinary journals. Write to inform, not to impress the readers with your rich vocabularies. The more easily the readers can understand the paper, the more likely they will appreciate it. Clear and concise writing can be achieved by asking other experts to read and comment on the paper before submission to a journal. So now that we are done on how to create an outline for the manuscript, choosing the right journal, structuring the manuscript, and on how your manuscript should tell its story, then these slides will be the components of the manuscript. So the first is creating a strong title that attracts readers. The title of your article is one of the first indicators readers will get of your research and concepts. It should be concise, accurate, and informative. You should include your most relevant keywords in your title, but avoid including abbreviations and formulae. Be familiar of the titles of papers published in your chosen journal and use this as guide in crafting your own title. There is no need to stick to the thesis title. The next is writing an abstract. Some journals require graphical abstract as part of the publication. Graphical abstract is a single, concise, pictorial, and visual summary of the main findings of the article. It could either be the concluding figure from the article, or better still, a figure that is specially designed for the purpose, which captures the content of the article for readers at a single glance. Here we have another example of a health-related graphical abstract. When it comes to the usual textual abstract, the purpose of your abstract is to express the key points of your research clearly and concisely. An abstract must always be considered as it is the primary element of your work that readers will come across. An abstract should be a short paragraph, around 300 words. Other journals are strict for 250 words only, that summarizes the findings of your journal article. In most cases, an abstract will be composed of what your research is about, what methods have been used, and what your main findings are. Here we have a sample of an abstract composed of 208 words. The first statement introduced the study. The second statement tells about the research gap. The highlighted statement mentioned the methods. These highlighted statements talk about the overall findings or results. The highlighted statement is the conclusion of the study. And the last statement contains recommendation. The next is writing an introduction. An introduction is a pivotal part of the article writing process. It does not only introduces your topic and your stance on the topic, but it also situates, contextualizes your argument in the broader academic field. It is important to structure the introduction into 4 or 6 paragraphs. In the first paragraph, try to give a general introduction to the topic for broader audience. The next paragraphs contain the literature review. This provides summary of the relevant literature on your topic, description of the current situation, and provides some gaps in the literature that your study will address. Narrow down the focus to your particular topic and state your research problems and aims. The last paragraph include the research targets, usually 1 paragraph, where the author state the hypothesis or research question and the potential contribution to the body of knowledge, which is optional. The next is presenting the methods. In writing the methods, try to remember these tips. Number 1, be sure to present a method that would allow others to repeat similar experiment. And number 2, there is a clear data gathering method and analysis for each objective. Aside from these 2 tips, there are 3 bases or steps in writing the method section. Step 1 is to explain the methodological approach. Begin by introducing your overall approach to the research. What research problem or question did you investigate? For example, did you aim to systematically describe the characteristics of something? And what type of data did you need to achieve this aim? Did you need quantitative data? Did you need to collect primary data yourself? Or did you have secondary data that was collected by someone else? Did you gather experimental data by controlling and manipulating variables, or descriptive data by gathering observations without intervening? Depending on your discipline and approach, you might also begin with a discussion of the rationale and assumptions underpinning your methodology. Explain why this is the most suitable approach to answer your research questions. Another methodological approach is this a standard methodology in your field, or does it require justification? Were there any ethical or philosophical considerations? What are the criteria for validity and reliability in this type of research? Keep in mind that something that is valid may not be reliable. In quantitative experimental study, you might aim to produce generalizable knowledge about the causes of a phenomenon. Valid research requires a carefully designed study under controlled conditions that can be replicated by other researchers. While in a qualitative ethnography, you might aim to produce contextual real-world knowledge about the behaviors, social structures, and shared beliefs of a specific group of people. As this methodology is less controlled and more interpretative, you will need to reflect on your position as researcher, taking into account how your participation and perception might have influenced the results. Step 2 in presenting the methods is describe your methods of data collection. Once you have introduced your overall methodological approach, you should give full details of your data collection methods. Explain how you operationalize concept and measured your variables, your sampling method or inclusion-exclusion criteria, and any tools, procedures, and materials you use to gather data. First is surveys. Describe where, when, and how the survey was conducted. How did you design the questionnaire, and what form did the questions take? Example, multiple choice or Likert scale. What sampling method did you use to select participants? Did you conduct surveys by phone, mail, online, or in person? And how long did participants have to respond? What was the sample size and response rate? You might want to include the full questionnaire as an appendix so that your reader can see exactly what data was collected. So in experimental or experiment, give full details of the tools, techniques, and procedures you used to conduct the experiment. How did you design the experiment? How did you recruit participants? How did you manipulate and measure the variables? What tools or technologies did you use in experiment? In experimental research, it is especially important to give enough detail for other researchers to reproduce your results. And the last method of data collection is existing data or data mining. Explain how you gathered and selected material, such as publication or archival data, for inclusion in your analysis. What is the source of your material? How was the data originally produced? What criteria did you use to select materials? The last step in presenting your methods is describe your methods of analysis. Avoid going into much detail. You should not start presenting or discussing any of your results at this stage. How you prepare the data before analyzing it. Example, checking for missing data, removing outliers, transforming variables. Which software you use to analyze the data. For example, XPSS, Stata, or R. Which statistical tests you use. Example, two-tailed, t-test, or sample linear regression. The next is the result writing, or the step 9 in manuscript preparation. So in result writing, be sure that the results are presented in accordance with the order of objectives. Graphs, charts, and maps help the reader digest number of ideas in the shortest amount of time. Create clear, simple, and precise but informative graphs. Be sure that the graphs are well labeled as shown on the right-hand side of the slide. In my experience in evaluating a paper, many authors failed to label the Y and X axis, and the figure captions are usually incomplete. Create colored graphs, if possible, to easily capture the attention of the audience. Avoid repeating the contents of the graph or table. Here we have a sample of textual presentation which excessively repeat the contents of a graph. And here we tried to simplify the textual form into 2 short and simple sentences. Do not discuss your result, just present the results. Number 10 is writing the discussion. The discussion chapter is where you delve into the meaning, importance, and relevance of your results for each objective. It should focus on explaining and evaluating what you found, showing how it relates to your literature review and research questions, and making an argument in support of your overall conclusion. There are many different ways to write this section, but you can focus your discussion around 4 key elements. First is interpretations, second is implications, third is limitations, and last is the recommendations. So the first way to write the discussion is give your interpretations. The meaning of the results might seem obvious to you, but it is important to spell out their significance for the reader and show exactly how they answer your research questions. The form of your interpretations will depend on the type of research, but some typical approaches in interpreting the data include identifying correlations, patterns, and relationships among the data, discussing whether the results meet your expectation or supported your hypothesis, contextualizing your findings within previous research and theory, explaining unexpected results and evaluating their significance, and considering possible alternative explanations and making an argument for your position. You can also organize your discussion around key themes, hypothesis or research questions, following the same structure as your results section. You can also begin by highlighting the most significant or unexpected results. For example, in line with the hypothesis, contrary to the hypothesis association, the results contradict the claims of Smith 2007 that the results might suggest that X. However, based on the findings of similar studies, a more plausible explanation is Y. The second way to write your discussion is discuss the implications. As well as giving your own interpretations, make sure to relate your results back to the scholarly work that you surveyed in the literature review. The discussion should show how your findings fit with existing knowledge, what new insight they contribute, and what consequences they have for theory or practice. Ask yourself these questions. Do your results agree with previous research? If so, what do they add to it? Are your findings very different from other studies? If so, why might this be? Do the results support or challenge existing theories? And are there any practical implications? Your overall aim is to show the reader exactly what your research has contributed and why they should care. For example, these results build on existing evidence of the results do not fit with the theory that the experiment provides a new insight into the relationship between blank. These results should be taken into account when considering how to blank. The data contributes a clearer understanding of blank. And the last example is, while previous research has focused on X, these results demonstrate that Y. The third steps in writing discussion is acknowledge the limitations. Even the best researcher has some limitations, and acknowledging this is important to demonstrate your credibility. Limitations aren't about listing your errors, but about providing an accurate picture of what can and cannot be concluded from your study. Limitations might be due to your overall research design, specific methodological choices, or anticipated obstacles that emerge during the research process. You should only mention limitations that are directly relevant to your research objectives and evaluate how much impact they had on achieving the aims of the research. For example, if your sample size was small or limited to a specific group of people, note that this limits its generalizability. If you encountered problems when gathering or analyzing data, explain how this influenced the results. If there are potential confounding variables that you were unable to control, acknowledge the effect this may have had. After noting the limitations, you can reiterate why the results are not less valid for the purpose of answering your research questions. For example, the generalizability of the results is limited by the reliability of this data is impacted by due to the lack of data on X, the results cannot confirm. The methodological choices were constrained by it is beyond the scope of the study. 2. The last way to write your discussion is state your recommendations. Based on the discussion of your results, you can make recommendations for practical implementation or further research. Sometimes the recommendations are saved for the conclusion. Suggestions for further research can lead directly from the limitations. Don't just state that more studies should be done. Give concrete ideas for how future work can build on areas that your own research was unable to address. Further research is needed to establish blank, or future studies should take into account blank. So what to leave out of the discussion? There are few common mistakes to avoid when writing the discussion section of your paper. Don't introduce new results. You should only discuss the data that you have already reported in the results section. Don't make inflated claims. Avoid overinterpretation and speculation that isn't supported by your data. Last is don't undermine your research. The discussion of limitations should aim to strengthen your credibility, not emphasize weaknesses or failures. Now that we are done with the main component of the manuscript, we are now in the step 11, revise, edit, and rework. It is important to continue to edit and revise your work. In my experience, it took me more than 20 revisions before my paper was submitted to a journal. Step 12 is the acknowledgement. Make this section short and concise. Avoid mentioning a lot of names, which can make the authors having not done anything. Acknowledgements can appear to be a small aspect of your journal article. However, it is still important. This is where you acknowledge the individuals who do not qualify for co-authorship but contributed to your article intellectually, financially, or in some other manner. When you acknowledge someone in your academic text, it gives you more integrity as a writer, as it shows that you are not claiming other academics' ideas as your own intellectual property. It can also aid your readers in their own research journeys. Step 13 is writing your reference. References and citations should be well balanced, current, and relevant. Although every field is different, you should aim to cite references that are not more than 10 years old if possible. The study you cited should be strongly related to your research question. Avoid excessive citing of your own work. It makes your paper cheap. Minimize the use of papers from suspected predatory journals, as these are not peer-reviewed. Cite the works published in peer-reviewed journals. Ensure that all cited works are listed in the reference section and vice versa, that also conforms to the journal's format. Most authors left this part unformatted, thinking that the journal editors will do this work for them. Some journals also ask supplemental materials of your research. So a manuscript cannot contain every piece of data collected throughout the project. Use the supplemental material, additional relevant resources for the reader. The main manuscript should contain adequate information to permit understanding and interpretation. Data may include additional figures, tables, materials and methods, or other items that add value to the manuscript but are not necessary to understand the underlying research. But do not forget to give the supplemental material a review before submission, both to avoid errors and to potentially decrease the revision time if your work is accepted. Step 15 is writing a strong cover letter. So this is the last step in preparing manuscript for journal publication. So a well-written cover letter highlights the relevance and importance of your work. Explain why the work is appropriate for the journal's readership and will leave the editors wanting to find out more. Include specifics like the editor's name and the journal's name, and keep your letter into a 1 or 2 pages. Some journals have cover letter template, so be sure to follow the suggested contents to avoid delay in processing the submitted document. Now you are ready to submit your paper, but be ready for the review process and stay eager to revise until your paper published. So thank you very much for joining us in this seminar, and I hope that you learned something from us.